It's time now for Culture. Now, reactions to developments in Iran have not been limited to politicians and diplomats. Many Iranian artists have spoken out since the outbreak of war, especially those in the diaspora living here in France. Olivia Salazar-Winsbit joins me from our Culture desk to give us an overview. Olivia, tell us about the responses from the Iranian artists you've been speaking to.
Well, yeah, it's worth remembering that many Iranian artists don't live in Iran. They've lived abroad because of the real restrictions on freedom of speech in their country, and that's been the case for years, for decades. Filmmaker Sepideh Farsi is one of those people. She came to international attention last year thanks to her documentary, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. That film follows the photojournalist Fatima Hassouna, a Palestinian journalist who was documenting the situation in Gaza until April of last year when she was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Now, Sepideh has been very active campaigning for that cause, as well as campaigning for civil liberties in her own country, Iran. She's now organising a fundraising event here in Paris as a tribute to the tens of thousands of people who were killed in the civil uprising by the regime in recent weeks and months, as well as those killed in the bombings of recent days. So French artists like Eric Truffaz, Camilla Jordana and Anam Glalis are on the bill there, as well as fellow Iranian exiles Mina Kavani and Aida Navidi. My colleagues Yong Chim and Nina Masson went to meet Sepideh to ask her more about the aims of this event and about her hopes for the future in Iran.
The aim is to show the complexity of Iranian society, which is multi-ethnic and multi-faith, and that it is possible to converge and to show the beauty of this society, the beauty of its music, its art, its culture, to be the voice of Iranians and to speak for the victims. I want democracy and freedom for my people. I want a democratic regime in Iran. I want Iranians to be able to go to the polls and choose the form of government they want.
So that event is called Pour l'Iran, or For Iran. It's taking place at the New Morning Jazz Club in Paris on March 15th. And the money raised there is going through the PANA Association, which helps Iranian refugees who've had to flee the country recently.
And as well as these expressions of solidarity, some artists are choosing to process events in a more personal way, turning to their craft as an emotional outlet.
Of course, this is a big question for artists of all nationalities. Do you make art that speaks to your origins, the experience of your people, or do you create something completely different regardless of where you come from? And for example, visual artist Yosra Mojtahedi didn't set out to make art that was specifically about Iran. As a resident at the Fondation Flamenco here in Paris, she's actually interested in robotics and interactive sculpture. Yet she told us how the climate of violence and repression in Iran has inevitably seeped into her work. The colour black is omnipresent. There are stark contrasts between darkness and light in her pieces, hard, hostile materials, and also softer, more sensual elements. She told us in particular about a recent piece that sums up those ideas and why creativity has become a really important intellectual and emotional outlet for her.
One of my latest works is called Ginor. It is a large monumental sculpture created from steel and recycled metal with hair. So in fact, it's a mixture of organic forms. Hair is a political material, and it's mixed with recycled metal from machines. I think that in the face of the violence we are experiencing with war, art is a space of power, a space to suggest solutions, to question. It's a space for free expression.
And Olivia, a question that, of course, we've all been discussing is what comes next for Iran, who's going to be deciding what comes next for Iran. What have you been hearing from the Iranian artists in the diaspora that you've been speaking to?
Of course, this is the great hope and fear for those living in exile, that at this turning point there is so much at stake. And while we have seen Iranians abroad celebrating the death of Ayatollah Khomeini, others are naturally more sceptical. One of them is writer, translator and editor Soror Kasmai. This is someone who's long campaigned for an end to that autocratic regime, a regime that forced her to leave Iran more than 40 years ago and settle in France. But she also warns against against this sort of automatic jolt back to the past, back to the old system, that is the descendants of the Shah. This was her analysis of the situation for France 24.
I don't think Reza Pahlavi can make this transition alone. Everyone has a responsibility. We are truly at a turning point in Iran's history. That's why I emphasize that all these voices, both Reza Pahlavi's and others, must come together around one table to discuss. No one will succeed in overthrowing this regime alone.
So as you can see there, Sohour Kasmai, she's written about women and about freedom, civil liberties in Iran. And while these reactions that we've been talking about here are to a direct response to the bombings of recent days, Iranian artists in France have long been speaking out against the regime there in recent months and in recent years. Just last Friday evening, hours before the bombing started in Tehran, actress Golshifteh Farahani gave a really powerful speech at the César Awards. That's France's most prestigious prizes for film, saying that at this glittering event, her heart was at home with the thousands, tens of thousands of Iranians who'd been killed and with their loved ones. She also paid tribute to director Jafar Panahi. The director was actually in the room at that event. He has defied imprisonment, house arrest, filming bans to make his movie, and the most recent of which, A Simple Accident, actually won the top prize, the Palme d'Or, at the Cannes Film Festival last year. It's also nominated for Best International Feature at the upcoming Oscars. So it's safe to say that Iranian artists have certainly been using every platform at their disposal to call for safety, human rights and dignity as they traverse this very tragic and troubling time.
Olivia Salazar-Winspear from our Culture Desk, thank you very much. Well, that's all we have time for right now. Thank you very much for watching. You're watching Paris Direct here on France 24. Do stay tuned, more news coming up in just a few minutes' time.